Sai Ram. If I heard Brother Hari correctly, he said I should sing a couple of lines. So let me start with this beautiful bhajan that's always very close to my heart. That Swami sang as his very first message to all of us. Manas bhajare Guru Charanam Dustara Bhava Sagar Taranam Manasa Bhajare Guru Charanam Dustara Bhava Sagar Taranam Guru Maharaj Guru Jai Jai Guru Maharaj Guru Jai Jai Sai Nath Sadguru Jai Jai Sai Nath Sadguru Jai Jai Manas Bhajare Guru Charanam Dustara Bhava Sagar Taranam. Offering my most prayerful and divine salutations at the lotus feet of my beloved Sadguru, Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba. I express my heartfelt gratitude to Brother Venkat, Brother Satya, and of course Brother Hari for giving me this opportunity, a long opportunity, if you will, 90 minutes, and 2 of those sessions to share some of my experiences with this Divine Master who has blessed us with 86 years of most wonderful life, being the perfect role model, whether one is a child, one is a woman, or a man, it doesn't matter. As a human being, he set a role model of what we can do with one lifespan. If only we begin to believe in our divinity and allow that divinity to express through our thoughts, words, and deeds. So, I'm always very humbled and very privileged when I begin to share these thoughts. It's a very beautiful morning. The sun is just coming up, and there is some shadows from the window panes on my face, I guess. That's what I gather when I see myself on my phone screen. But it's a very beautiful morning here in Cleveland, Ohio. Very cold outside, but we are inside, so that's okay. And as the sun is rising, this is the time of the day when usually I will be doing yoga, and so it's a very meditative period for me. And to be able to offer a satsang at this time for me, and I know it's evening, late evening for you in Singapore, and perhaps much later in India, but it is the first time I'm doing a satsang sitting on a comfortable chair like this. Blame it on the age. And so it's a new experience for me, but it's very divine. I feel so perfectly in tune with the divine to be able to do this offering. So I offer my heartfelt gratitude to all of you for being part of this satsang. And this is the first time, as I'm doing a Sai Satsang, I'm also trying something to simultaneously cast it live. So I don't know how successful it will be. So we didn't really announce it. We might, if this works out fine, if the mics and the batteries and all of that survive the 90-minute span, then we might announce for the Sunday Satsang so people can also log in live. Brother Hari, words fail me. If I ever need an ego boost, I'm going to call you, because you have been so very kind and generous. You always have been very kind and generous with your words, with your attitude, with your generosity. You have given us so much legacy you have left, you are leaving behind, and you are left behind in the Institute in the form of bhajans, wonderful bhajans that you have composed, and to be one of the first students to sit at Swami's feet and play the harmonium and bring in the melody so that everybody else will fall in line. It's people like you who set up the standards, set high standards of bhajans in Puttaparthi and helped Swami in that mission. So I always regard you, I always hold you in my heart with very, very high regards. So thank you very much for your very kind words. It's a blessing. And for those of you who don't know, um, the patience that Brother Hari had with me, especially, I can speak for myself, especially when it came to singing, was phenomenal, because I wouldn't even know how to start on Shruti. And somehow Swami was very gracious. It happened once after we moved to the hostel. Swami decided he wanted younger boys and his students to start singing in the mandir. I think the time was right. And so one day he came to the hostel and he said, I'm going to do, before coming to the hostel, he said, I'm going to do an audition, and whoever can sing can, once they get selected by me, they will sing in the mandir. Now, looking back, it seems so divine. Pardon me. Looking back, it seems such a divine opportunity. Back then, we were so young. We took Swami for granted in so many ways. I can't even believe that. So, but we all were excited, and we all practiced our little bhajans. Many of the boys, like, Brother Hirok and Brother Kote and all of them, who had come from, I don't believe Brother Kote was at that point there, but Brother Hirok and others had come from Vrindavan. So they were already singing in front of Swami. So they were the stalwarts in bhajan singing. So those of us freshly joined in Puttaparthi were very excited. I know Brother Hari will recollect Samir Manel, Tribhuvan Sachdev, and myself. I can't think of anybody else at this point. Of course, Brother Hari was there. He was like the guru for everyone. He was at the harmonium. And so, and of course, we had Brother Sai Surendranath at the tabla. And I remember the first bhajan I ever sang in front of Swami was the first 4 lines, which I thought was very simple. Giridhara Gopal Muralidhara Hare Govinda Gopal Damodara. Giridhara Gopal Muralidhara Hare Govinda Gopal Damodara. Giridhara Gopal Muralidhara Hare Govinda Gopal Damodara. So it was 4 lines. I learned it in Bombay because I came from Bombay. And so that was the 4 lines I sang. Swami was very delighted that evening. It was so amusing. I still have a vague recollection of that evening. He was smiling with everybody singing. I was so nervous. And he said, I'll announce the results tomorrow. And of course, many of us would have perhaps spent a sleepless night. I certainly did. Because the reason is, wanting to sing before Swami was again a great privilege. But the fact that you could sit right at his feet, close to him, in the mandir, was a divine opportunity. So even though we were a few students compared to what it is now, or compared to what it became later in the 90s, when we started, it was 60, 70, 80 boys. Even then, there were 100 boys around Swami. So for you to be in the first 10 around him, you had to do something, right? So everybody was looking for an opportunity to do something to get into that inner circle, if you will, or a chance to be close to him. Because that is what I was there in Puttaparthi for, to understand more of Swami, to explore him more. And so for me, that was a great opportunity to then sit and absorb his energy, if you will. And so I spent a sleepless night, and Swami came, next day morning he sent word that all the 12 boys, there were 12 of us whom he selected, and he said, all the 12 boys are selected. Let them practice well before singing. And that began a saga of what today is famously known as students' bhajans. And it's people like Brother Hari, S. Kumar, who came later, and all of them who really set high standards of singing. They were trained in classical music. They taught us how to sing in Shruti. Um, it's um, it's amazing, and I think when you have people like Brother Hari introduce, then your mind just goes back to those beautiful days. I know Brother Hariharan will still recollect, and the first thing I did, one of the programs I offered in the institute basement auditorium was a miming show. It was some kind of a comedy I did for entertainment purposes. And Brother Hariharan, who is actually such a wonderful harmonium player, was humble enough to sit there and give me some really ridiculous music. It was going down, that kind of, it was funny. But he was ready. He sat and he did that for me. And along with that music, I was doing some miming. And now when I look back, I'm like, I'm so grateful for this is the kind of humility that Swami brings out. He could have easily said, see, I'm not going to do such ridiculous sounds on the harmonium for you. But that was it. That was the brotherhood. We would do anything to please Swami, anything to express that brotherhood within us. That was something that we learned in Puttaparthi, in Swami's presence. There wasn't really any private space for us. And I'm sharing these only to not only relive those moments in my head, but also to, there are so many lessons. For example, this community living that Maya and I often talk, also raised from her 8th grade in the primary school. Then she went on to Anantapur College. She worked in the super specialty hospital. So we talk about this often. There wasn't any such thing as private space, my room versus your room, or a knock on the door before you enter my room. Or it was just one bed, and there were some rooms had 12, some dorms we call it, some dorms had 12 beds in them, and we all slept on the floor. Some had 14, some had 4 or 5, depending on the size of the rooms. And it was so fascinating that we shared common bathrooms, everything was very, very, very open. There wasn't anything private except that the spiritual relationship that we had with Swami. That was that inner path. That is all that was there. It was truly established in the Gurukulam style, if you will. No modern comforts and none of that. At least at that point, we didn't even have ceiling fans in the hostel. Swami would jokingly say, if they had ceiling fans, and they will sleep till 8 o'clock in the morning. They have to learn to get up early, so let the mosquitoes wake them up. So it was part of life. We learned to live with the mosquitoes. We would go to the terrace and sleep open air. And this wasn't a weekend retreat. It wasn't a week-long retreat. It was every day in and out for many, many, many years. So that was life in Puttaparthi in a very, very, very bird's eye view, if you will, or a brief synopsis of what life was. The reason why I'm sharing it again is because Swami established such a beautiful, I hate to call it alternate, because that is the real lifestyle. But at this point, compared to our lifestyle, that seems alternate. So let me use that word. An alternate lifestyle to show us that this is what it was. Hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, where simplicity was not imposed upon us. Simplicity became a very natural part of our life. We had just things that were important for us. Bed enough to give us comfort, but light enough so you can roll it and take it up to the terrace to sleep, or when it starts raining, you roll it and rush down and come back and sleep in your rooms. Bed sheets strong enough to protect you from the cold nights, or light enough so you can put them away or fold them and carry them with you. All these little things. Shoulder to shoulder, brushing your teeth on a common wash basin. These were lessons learned where you naturally begin to share. It's a natural thing. And I think people, the Indian subcontinent, India in particular now, as we understand it, people look upon it as, this Slumdog Millionaire or whatever that movie was. I haven't watched it yet because that word doesn't appeal to me, the title itself. But nevertheless, there is a celebration of the poverty in India, and anybody comes there, they takes videos of poverty-stricken places, huts and dwelling and all of that. And it's perhaps true, right? So poverty is not a crime. It's who we are. Part of India, a lot of Indian people are below poverty line. But the beauty here is, even though there won't be food in the house, there will be hope in every home, and there will be a light lit in front of an altar, and faith. Hope and faith are perhaps the greatest hallmarks of any civilization, and that is what has kept Indian civilization alive, and that is why it draws these divine masters into its fold time and time again. Hope and faith. Without those two, I think life loses its meaning. And that is what, to me, it was the greatest riches that Baba taught us. Have hope, always hope. Prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. And let that hope be guided with deep, unshakable conviction and faith. That brings me to the journey of Swami. When I grew up in Bombay, in India, and my family was pretty orthodox, as orthodox as you can be in Bombay. Luckily, they weren't in South India, because they could have been really, really orthodox. Not that it's bad, I'm just saying it's a matter of fact. But in Bombay, it was more, it's like the New York of India. So there was more exchange. For example, my father sent me and my cousins. We were living in a joint family. So my Chittappa, as we call it, my uncle and my dad, they decided to send us to St. Xavier's High School. So it was a hardcore Catholic, Roman Catholic Christian school. So Roman Catholic school, Orthodox Hindu family. Why did he send us to the Christian school? For many reasons. One, it was English based, English medium. He wanted us to study English. And of course, it was very, very, very economical, very cheap. I think it was at that point 7 rupees a month or some 15 rupees a month or something like that, school fees. So all that put together, one thing added to the other, and he sent us to that school. But he encouraged us to explore different religions and understand it. But being raised in a very orthodox family, I wasn't able to find that faith that was so strong in my parents. They had found it. They had found it in their Lord Murugan and Shiva. And as I grew up, I couldn't relate to that. But of course, now I should say that it's a 180-degree turn. Now I understand that symbolism, and for me, Shiva is the ultimate for everything. But the point here is, at that point when I was growing, nobody explained to me the why and the how. Why do we have to do this, or why do you have to do that? So that kind of broke me into pieces, because you go to school and you listen to people this and all of that in that religion, then you come home and then you see all these gods with all these weapons, and then you're wondering, wait a minute, what is this all about? Is this something to be always afraid of? And I saw people worship out of fear. If you don't do Pilliyar Puja or Ganesha Puja, then something is going to go wrong. Let's do that first. You have to do it this way. You have to offer this way. You sing this way. And there were so many very tight restrictions that for me, as growing up, I found it very suffocating, mentally, spiritually. And so the best thing I learned to do was distance myself from it, though physically I was there very much. And I'm grateful in one sense, because even as a child I was being raised in that. All our outings were in satsangs and bhajans and kirtanams. This great soul Variyar would give stories of Murugan, so my mother would drag us, and I would perhaps sleep on her lap or my father's lap, I don't know, when I was 5, 6, 7. But I do remember those very much. And Pithukulli Murugadas was almost like a family member for us. Every time he would come to Bombay, he would come and stay with us or visit us. He had a couple of other houses in Chembur and other places as well. So for those of you who don't know Pithukulli Murugadas, he's an amazing singer who introduced Bhakti Yoga. He was a disciple of Swami Shivananda. So he had a great influence in our lives, and I owe a lot of my subconscious, unconscious learning of bhajan singing to him as well, because he would sit for hours and teach my mother and my chitti, and they would sit and learn, and I would, when I say chitti, I mean my aunt. So they would be learning, and I would be listening. I would be fascinated by how he plays a harmonium, much as I was fascinated later to see Brother Hari's hands simply just go around like butter. And that's what I struggle with in my satsangs when I try to learn, because if I play it, I can't sing. If I sing, I can't play. I'm still learning. So this is how the childhood was. What I lacked was somebody who would explain things to me, because Indian culture, Indian tradition, Sanatana Dharma, I'm Hinduism, okay, because that's a relatively new term imposed upon us by some recent forces. So the word Hindu doesn't really reflect who we are, because then it becomes like a religion boxed in a small little tight space. Sanatana Dharma is an eternal way of life, where consciousness expands to embrace everyone and everything. The essence of Sanatana Dharma was oneness. There was no division in Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana itself means eternal, divisionless in time and space. In other words, there is only one consciousness that has become all of this. So in Sanatana Dharma, there is so much. You have to learn it. You have to be literally educated as a child, as a youngster, and so on. So you will be able to appreciate the depth of what it has to offer. That wasn't there. And so by the time I reached my teenage, I had completely kind of become aloof. I wanted to go and join a film institute in Pune, and I wanted to become an actor because I was a big fan of Amitabh Bachchan. Who wasn't, right? And so, famous Bollywood actor, even to this day. That was my dream. And I look at where I am today. There's one person who changed all that. One person who changed my entire lifespan, my entire life goal, my attitude, my objectives, everything turned 180 degrees or 360 degrees, I don't know what you call it. He just flicked the direction to another side, so that I use all energies, if you will, talents, if you will, knowledge, and everything that I had come into this world to use it for a much better purpose. And it didn't happen by way of instruction. The way Swami guided me was not by way of instruction. That happened too, of course. But predominantly by being a role model, he inspired me to change. And I think that is one of the greatest things that we learn from Swami, is true leaders inspire others to change. They don't not only tell them, not only preaching and saying you have to do this, do this, do this, but you inspire them so they begin to think, maybe I should do this, maybe I want to do this because I've seen somebody out there as a role model, and therefore it encourages me to change my attitude, my thinking, my behaviors, to follow generally in that direction and begin to discover my own little space where I can be myself. Sai Baba was responsible for that. Swami was responsible for that by setting an example to us in every way possible. And that is what we're going to explore in this satsang and the next satsang. Many of the stories I share will perhaps be the same, because anything else that happens to me after Puttaparthi it's in a very private, personal space. I've not yet understood how to share them. So the book I'm writing is taking forever, because I have to make peace with myself and understand how to share the spiritual experiences. So I'll refrain from that at this point, unless Swami prompts me and something happens naturally. But other than that, the lessons that I learned from Swami's staying with Swami those 15 years, and I all of us, every student who lived there, there's not just only me, every student who lived there. And you see in your satsang, you have invited stalwarts like Sanjay Sahani and Ravi Kumar and I guess Sai Surendranath and all of them. If you haven't, you should, because then you get to listen to everybody's perspectives. They will always be different. It's never going to be the same. So don't say, oh, but he said this, but you're saying this. All of us were, and I can certainly speak for myself, like a blind man trying to understand an elephant. I always use this analogy before I begin talking because that puts me in the right frame of mind. And it's a kind of a disclaimer as well, because not one person could ever say in the days I knew and can ever say that I have understood who Sai Baba is, or I have understood this master fully. Let me explain to you why he did this or why he spoke that. To me, that's like an eternal mystery. None of us could understand Swami in his wholeness, if you will. We saw what was exposed to us, and with each one of us, he exposed a particular aspect of his divinity in his own beautiful, charismatic, personal, divine manner, which only a Sadguru like him can do. Sadguru is one who lives in that truth consciousness all the time, consciousness of oneness, nothing else. And only he can do that. I don't think it's possible for anyone else to even dare replicate what he did, unless one is established in that highest state of consciousness. Then he becomes a Sadguru. Otherwise, we have gurus who can talk about spirituality and its implications on social society and this and that. But with Swami, it was very different. So no one person can actually say, I have understood completely Swami, who it was. So when I speak about Swami, when I share these perspectives of Swami, it is my limited, this glasses which I wore, what I saw from them, that's all it is. It is this little two things, a perception that was created by my sight, by my senses, what I could hold from that ocean of divinity. My little vessel, whatever it could hold, whatever shape the vessel was, that is the shape I'm ocean. Whatever I tasted from that vessel, that is the taste of this divine knowledge that I'm going to share from that ocean of divinity that he was. Why do I call him an ocean of divinity? Because every one of you who's listening to this, in this live satsang, I know all of you are devotees of Baba. Every one of you are linked directly to Swami, directly to Sai. And each of you are partaking a little bit of that ocean. It's like that amazing, timeless, endless beach where the entire world can fit in, and yet the ocean, they cannot, not one single person can take the whole ocean, can only take a part of that ocean, a minuscule part of that ocean, and say this is how the ocean is, depending on the size of his palm or the size of the vessel that he carries. That is the beauty of the Sai principle. It is not about what miracles he did or didn't do. It is not about, oh, what happened, Swami is gone and the world is still in a bad state and all of that. It's none of that. Avatars, I believe, don't come to set right your problems and my problems, right? When you have a child who is 1.5, 2, I guess, when they start to walk, we don't have children, so I might miss that, 1.5 years when they start to walk. What happens here? The parent doesn't say, oh my gosh, he's going to fall, I'm going to lift him, I'm not going to make him fall, I can't bear, my heart breaks when I see this kid fall. And then you start carrying this child and not letting him fall at all. Guess what is going to happen to the child? He is not going to learn how to walk, or she. The child will never learn how to walk properly, at least. And that's why if you go to these pediatricians, they say, it's okay, let him fall, let him learn, he will learn. And the child gets angry and frustrated. He turns on his belly and he gets angry that he can't join this, right? I've seen my niece and nephews, their babies doing this. And so they want to join, and then and out of sheer will, they start swimming out there. And then they begin to open their eyes, and that the brain begins to grasp every little movement of mommy and daddy and everybody around them. How are they able to do that? It seems like a miracle to us at that point. But slowly we begin, the inner being, that learning creature within us, begins to teach us. And we begin to slowly, unconsciously emulate what we see around, and we begin to start walking. And then it becomes second nature to us, right? Then we begin to teach others and other kids how to walk, how to talk, and all of that. With Swami, it was like that. That is what I believe. The divine masters who come to this earth are not going to fix your problems, help, like create gold for everybody. Somebody asked me, why does he not create gold for the whole world? I said, if that is the case, then the gold prices will be so low that you will be wondering, oh, why did he do this? What am I going to do with gold? I can't even buy a chapati with this gold, because every Tom, Dick and Harry has a lot of gold in his house. So creating gold for the whole world is not going to solve your problem. The problem is not of having more gold or less gold in your home. It's about desires. How much can you, what do you need in your life, and how much do you crave for? What is it that you crave for? Avatars come to give you a model of what life could be. They set a role model of what they can do with one lifetime to show you and me, look, this is what you can do with your life, to give you an example and leave you the choice to decide. I think that is the best way. Then you choose what you have to do with your life. You can put that avatar and add it to the millions of other avatars you already have in your altar, and say, oh, this is one more God, I'm going to add him to my collection of gods, and decide whether I should chant 108 names or 1008 names, and should I sing bhajans 45 minutes or half an hour. And you can do all of that. But if you miss the main purpose of this avatar, giving you this model life of what you can do with your life, how can you sanctify your life, how can you grow your consciousness, how can you truly experience spirituality, how can you awaken your own inner divinity, if that message is missed, and if there is no personal transformation that comes out of that prayer and devotion and singing and learning and being with Baba, then Baba just becomes one more God added on. And then what happens? After Baba goes, you look for another Baba. Then you start saying, oh, Baba has appeared here, oh, Baba has appeared there, start running behind light bodies and dark bodies, and it becomes ridiculous, right? Then you begin to chase gods without personal transformation. That is why in Sanatana Dharma, they gave you the symbol of the lingam, just one little elliptical shape made of stone or crystal or anything that you find. In the Himalayas, crystals were easily available, so they made it out of crystal. In the south, granite is available, so they made it out of granite. A simplest form that explains the whole cosmos. That's all you need. But then keeping that, now we build rules and regulations around that. Then what happens is we lose the essence of what it is for. Why am I'm sharing my thoughts, because as it comes to me, I want to keep this very real and very natural, how Swami inspires me. Because we can listen to Swami's experiences and how Swami came and how he talked to you and what he gave you and how he gave this ring to me and how he gave me a watch and how he performed my wedding. Those are nice stories. But I always ask myself a question: what is it that a listener like you, what is your take home from that? If I tell you a long story and spend 45 minutes of what all Swami did when he performed our wedding in his room, which is a great privilege for us, but then what is your take home? You'll say, oh, great, you had so many opportunities, wonderful. And there is perhaps not much take home. But when I present it in this context, because this comes naturally to me, because today when I look back, these are the lessons I take home from this wonderful life that Swami led. And this is what inspires me to share Swami's teachings in my own way with everyone. So bear with me if I sound too philosophical. It is important for us, because being Sai devotees, if there is no personal transformation in our lives, if we truly don't begin to practice, and I'm saying truly because quote unquote, the emphasis on the word truly, is in thought, word, and deed. If we don't practice the 5 simple values he has given us, for example, Satya, truth. What does that truth mean to you? Your 5-year-old in your house will have a definition of truth. An 80-year-old in your house will have his own definition of truth. A 60-year-old will have his own definition of truth. A man will have his own definition from a woman, and so on. Each one of us have our own definition of what truth means. And each one of us is right, because that at that moment, at this moment in your life, given the circumstances you're in, within the knowledge that you have gained, with the experiences you have had, you define what truth means to you, what Satya means to you. And therefore, write it down and begin to inculcate that in your life. Somebody else's truth cannot become your truth. This is what I learned as growing up as a teenager, that my parents' faith was not my faith. I had to find my own faith. I didn't understand where it was coming from. There was a deep yearning, because as a very small child, 5 years, 6 years, and perhaps when I was 3 years old, I believe I used to sit in Swami Satchidananda's lap when he would visit my grandmother's home in Matunga. Swami Satchidananda was a direct disciple of Swami Shivananda. And before he came abroad in 1966 or so, he would visit as part of the Divine Life Society. They would all spread out and spread the message of Swami Shivananda, taking yoga to everyone's home. So maybe there was some kind of initiation at that point. I don't know, at the deep unconscious level. But I do know that these kind of trends and these kind of interests comes over lifetimes. And so there was a deep yearning for spirituality. It was just waiting to grow, that a kid getting frustrated to learning to walk. But I wasn't getting that. And that's when Swami came, right time in my life. And then when I started observing Swami, that idea of using him as a role model was not a conscious thing. It just became an unconscious way of bringing Swami into your life. And today it has enriched me so much. And when I say me, it's Maya and I, that in every way possible, physically in terms of health and all of that, mentally in terms of peace of mind and a deep sense of conviction, spiritually the sense of expansion in your consciousness. God is a very real experience for me today as I sit in front of you and speak. And this I can tell you from the depth of my heart. I don't have to worry about faith and belief in God, because a part of me is that. The higher self is that very same divinity. I've understood this, I've experienced this, I'm speaking from that conviction. And I owe it all to this divine guru who pointed me in the right direction. And he says that to every one of us. It's not just me he picked up and there was some secret mystical initiation. No. He says this 100 times in his lifetime, I think, or more. He said, I am God, but you are God as well. I know it, you don't. That's the only difference. So change your perspectives. In November 1983, he gave us this beautiful message. I am God, I am God, I am not different from God. I am Satchitananda, Akhanda Parabrahman. Grief and anxiety cannot enter me. I am ever content. Affect me, I am ever content. Fear cannot enter me. I am God, I am not different from God. He gave it to us as a mantra. He didn't say this. He said it, of course, but he said, say this. This is your mantra. This is your mantra. And the more we say it, the more it becomes real. In our spiritual journey with Swami, what happens is when we talk about these things like I am God, Atma, you'll say, Ayyo, Adalna, what is this? Atma, Paramatma and all. Don't talk about those things. Those are all vague and abstract. The more you keep telling yourself that, the more you keep saying, someday that will happen, someday God's grace it will happen, your subconscious mind is pushing it away and away and away, as if that is some distant thing. So the idea that is very abstract and distant becomes more real, because that is what you are feeding your head again and again and again and again every day. Every time you hear it, you'll say, Ayyo, that is all too much philosophy. I don't know all that. I can't concentrate that. The more you say that, you're pushing it away. And you're going to take that many amount of births and go through that many amount of journeys and lifespans until you realize that I'm looking at my own reflection in this mirror called the world. And what I'm seeing out there is merely a reflection, whether it is a car parked in my neighbor's driveway, whether it is a tree out in my yard, whether it's a beautiful river, whether it's a TV show, whether it is a person standing right in front of me, whether it is my job or my boss or my child. Everything around me is a reflection of my consciousness. I have created this reality around me and I can change it if I will. When that truth begins to dawn upon you, you know that you are the one that is eternal and permanent. Not I, when I say I am the one eternal, not I as Sundar. No, Sundar can go off tomorrow itself. But the I in Sundar is the same I as in Sai. If that is our journey, and that to me, that should be the journey. Why it should be the journey? Because as devotees of Sai, as followers of Sai, this is what he came to teach us. This is what he embodied in his lifespan. We worshiping him, we love him, we sing his praises because of the qualities that he projected through his thoughts, through his words, through his deeds. And if that doesn't cause inner transformation within us, then how can we call ourselves devotees of Sai? You know, the children these days, parents ask me this many times. How do we convince our children about Swami? How do we convince them to lead the spiritual life? How do we convince them to do all of that? It doesn't come out of verbal conviction. It comes out of inspiring role models. How did Swami cause that transformation in us? He did give discourses. But as young boys, many of these discourses we just couldn't even grasp. They seemed so abstract, like I just said. Because we were raised thinking those are all very abstract. But then a little bit of effort that we did began to open these doors, and we began to assimilate the teachings and discourses he gave. That is one small portion of the transformation. The real transformation, I'm sure Brother Hari will agree with me, and almost all students will agree. The real transformation occurred by watching and living with the Guru at the Gurukulam, at the ashram. Watching him, living him, holding him as the centerpiece around which our life revolved. That was the main reason for that transformation, which slowly occurred one day at a time, one moment at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time, for many of us 1 year at a time. That transformation was very subtle but very, very, very powerful. So to answer the question as to how to inculcate with children, they need to see role models. How does this fit into what I was just saying earlier? We pat ourselves on the back that, oh, Swami has given me a ring, or Swami has given me a watch, or Swami has given me a locket, and Swami did this to me, Swami did that to me. And we pride ourselves in saying how many opportunities we had with Divine Sai Master and Divine Sai and with Swami and all of that. There are many of us who pat ourselves on the back saying we are devotees for 25 years, 40 years. We knew Swami from 1960s. We knew him when he was walking in Chitravati and we had spent time, there were 4 of us, and we knew when Swami would come into our homes. So all that is great stories, right? All that are nice. But a youngster today, because if I was in that place, I would do the same thing. I would look up and say, okay, so what? So what if you got all these chances? So what if you got 3 rings or 10 rings or 10 fingers? So what if you got the best Rolex watch from Swami, or best or greatest lockets that he gave you as gifts, and these miracles and that he performed in your lives, and all of these great chances? So what? So what? If we as devotees react the very same manner to situations, to circumstances, to people, if we harbor the same level of greed, or maybe a little less, maybe a difference in percentage, I would say. I don't know how to quantify these things. But if we harbor the same level of either hatred or jealousy or anger or impatience, if you will, if we harbor the same qualities, as somebody who hasn't been exposed to Swami, somebody is sitting outside the box watching both will say, so what is the difference between you claiming you have known Sai Baba for 40 years versus somebody else who hasn't known Swami or who denies Sai Baba? What is the difference? We need to ask ourselves that what is the difference that in my life, is the difference just amounting to I've learned more bhajans now that I've become Sai devotee, I've learned more new slokas that I've become Sai devotee, or I've added more pictures of a new God in my home being a Sai devotee? What is it that is really, what is it that makes me different? That my child would see me as a role model and say, wow, deep inside, this is unconscious learning, because that unconscious learning, subconscious learning, the non-verbal communication comes when you and I become role models of Sai. That is why Swami used to tell us as students, your life is my message. So many times he said that, your life is my message. The way you walk, the way you sit, the way you speak, people will understand who I am, what I am here for. Not that he wanted to propagate, is not by way of you guys are my PRs, as we understand it's public relations, so you make sure that I get a good name. Not at all that way. He said, if I stand for this essence of divinity within, then you being close to me has to at some point begin to reflect that. If you don't reflect that, then what is the point? People would say, what is the point of these being close? What are they learning? What are they manifesting in their thoughts, word and deed? These are the questions I've asked for years on end in Puttaparthi, and I continue to ask that question. How am I reflecting the fact that I stayed with an avatar? Because the non-verbal communication is what really sends the message. It's not the verbal communication. It's not being a good orator or a good speaker or writing good books and singing songs. That is one part of it, right? An important part of it, but one part of it. But even today, when in modern psychology and communication skills, they say that is only 7%, though important, but it's still 7% communication. So what happens to the 93 odd % that is left? That is a non-verbal communication. Even out of that, the next 15% or so, I'm just throwing these figures roughly. So if you Google, you'll get the exact figures, if there is any such thing as exact. But the next other 15% is how your body shows. That's body level communication if you're doing a public speaking. But the major chunk is the energy that is transmitted. Nobody can put a finger on that. That energy is not restricted by time and space. You are sitting in the privacy of your home, thousands of miles away at this point, in a different time zone, and I'm sitting away from that. And yet you and I are connecting with an energy of Sai which is not restricted by time and space. If that energy is strong and powerful, and if you and I can mindfully create that energy, then that energy is what's going to cause a shift in consciousness. Gives you that sense of high, gives you the sense of peace, gives you a sense of bliss, and you want to come back to it again. That is the energy of a satsang. A satsang doesn't necessarily and never confined to the limits of time and space. That is why when we chant together, whether it is through online meetings, Zoom meetings, or it doesn't matter. The fact that you're either listening or chanting together connects you, and that energy is that which really causes the communication. With Swami, it was that energy that really caused that transformation in us. And as devotees of Sai, I think we need to ask ourselves, what is that energy that I'm emitting from my thoughts, from my words, from my deeds, from my lifestyle? Because your core belief inside you is what begins to emanate that energy. This is the blessing that Swami has given me. Many of us can subscribe to that belief, that understanding. This didn't bring me to Swami. I came to Swami as a complete new. Then this is the message I got when I left Puttaparthi, completely knowing and established in the fact that he is there in every atom in this universe. That same principle that exists in every cell in my body. It is such a beautiful journey of transformation, of spirituality, watching him, learning from him, being with him, understanding his love and presence, that it is mind blowing. But before I share all of that in this session and the next, um, you have to take this with a pinch of salt, because if you leave the satsang thinking, oh, they are lucky, they got a chance with Swami, so they can speak all this philosophy, and somehow I am very distant from him, and therefore I'm okay to be living in this little shell of mine of the poor me. What am I going to do in my life? That kind of the poor me victim mindset. If you leave the satsang with that, then I have failed in my duty to communicate to you that that is not what is meant with these satsangs. What we are sharing here is, of course, we are sharing a physical proximity where we got this divine opportunity. But more importantly, what I really want you to take home is that energy of Sai, which is not limited by time and space, can never be limited by time and space. When you call upon his name, he is there right in front of you, in your presence, above you, below you, around you, wherever, intane, gentane, kantane, as he says. Because at that point, he is identifying himself with the supreme consciousness. So when you call out the name of Sai, Sai is right there. You have to capitalize on that belief. When the mind chants the name, mind thinks of Swami, the mind becomes Swami. Mind has no shape of its own. Just like water has no shape of its own. You hold it in a jug, it becomes the shape of a jug. If you hold it in a glass, it becomes the shape of a glass, right? If you hold it in your palm, it is in the shape of your palm. Water has no shape. Imagine if water is like that. Air is even more subtle. Sound is even more subtle. Think of this consciousness of Sai. Think of the mind. The mind is so much more subtle than all of this. So the mind becomes the very objective thing. And so where is Swami at that point? He has filled your mind. The moment I think of Sai, he has filled automatically, he's filled my mind. And mind, where does it exist in your body? Brain is here, but where is the mind? In every cell in your being. In all the 6 chakras, different parts of your mind is there. How do you do all of that? How do you sanctify that? That's why when you think of Swami, you think only of Swami and leave out that little I out. That is why Namasmarana becomes very important. I will share stories, bear with me. But I think this is so much more important for us to share this message for me. And this is what is really coming from my heart. So bear with me and allow me to finish this trend of thought here. Namasmarana, when you think of Swami, Swami manifests. Why am I saying this? Is because this time and space cannot be restricted. So don't go home thinking Swami is there, Swami is gone now. Well, I have to go to searching for Swami in some subtle body somewhere, manifesting in some vibhuti in somebody's home, or somebody says Swami is speaking through me, or now Swami, they dress up like Swami and wear robes like Swami. Now that is reducing Swami to a ghost or a spirit. That is an insult to the Sadguru, who's identified himself with a divine consciousness, not restricted by time and space. So I'm not even going to address that part, because that brings down my energy. But I'm going to address this part. When your mind, you say Sai, he has filled your mind. Every part and every cell in your being is filled with Sai. And at that moment, don't think of the I. Think of only Sai. Lose yourself in the Sai consciousness. And watch that attitude, that practice, beginning to manifest Sai wherever you are. Wherever you are, Sai will manifest. And all the little problems that confine you to the little I, that bother you, health or relationship or finance or all of that will miraculously get aligned to your scheme of things. Mark you, I'm not saying it will go away. I'm saying it will get aligned in such a way that you will be able to handle all of them and take them in your stride. They will not begin to bother you. They will not begin to restrict your thinking. Your relation with Sai will be true. This is the real energy of Swami that I want you to take home. This is the real energy of Sai that Maya and I live with in our home. This is the real Sanatana Sai, as I call him, this eternal principle of divinity that continues to inspire me to what we are doing today in the form of spreading yoga and Sanatana Dharma, because I feel this is so very important. And it is with these thoughts that I share some of these stories with Swami. So that Swami who belongs to you gave some of his time to us. That Swami who presents himself today in the Vishwarupa, in the cosmic energy, where you can't bind him now to being in Puttaparthi or in Vrindavan. You can't say, I want to sit in the first line of darshan, or I want to be closer, I want to get an interview with Sai Baba, or I want to get a gift from him. No more such thoughts. Now you think of him, he manifests, his energy manifests to you, in you, around you, above you, below you. That is the energy you need to soak in that energy. Today, right now, when I speak to you and me, I'm soaking in that energy. I'm allowing that energy to shine in me, through me, and just freely bathing in that energy. And so whatever manifests as words through my mouth is just an experience, manifestation of an expression rather of that experience that I'm enjoying in this memory of Sai, in this Salokya, if you will, in this world of divine world of Sai that we create. Then we create a Sarupya, we create the form of Sai. We talk about the stories that we established with him. And my stories should remind you of your own experiences, little though they may be, small they may be, but they are very significant. They don't lose their significance because they were small in nature, and not as dramatic as Swami curing me of a snake bite, or those kind of things. May not be, but the essence is the same. The significance is very much the same. The actual manifestation of that could be very different. So you take home and you remind you of that experience, and you get to Sarupya, then you become Samipya, you get closer and closer to this divine ideal, and finally you realize that divine energy that I'm talking about is my own higher self. What greater joy can that be? Knowing that this is my own self that I've been worshipping. This is the beauty that Meera found in her heart after running helter and skelter like a crazy woman. She ran searching for Krishna. Where are you? Where are you? And finally said, Payo ji maine Ram Ratana Dhana Payo. She sings that song because Swami would say, Chalo re man Ganga Yamuna Tir. She said, ultimately Meera found Ganga and Yamuna, the Ida and Pingala, and Saraswati is the Bhrumadhya. And Swami says, she found him within. Tyagaraja found Rama within. Tulsidas found Rama within. Every saint, every teacher, every master who has represented Sanatana Dharma and other religions, including Jesus, talks about finding the kingdom of heaven within. This is very important for us when we attend satsangs. Why we are attending these satsangs, why are we going, is to find that, learn from others' stories, and then dig out and find our own path, create our own space, our own relation, and get inspired by others. But not that path cannot become my path. Could be, but not necessarily. You don't have to follow somebody else's footprints, but you can learn from their path, get inspired by their stories, and then create your own path, your own story of our individuality. Swami was born in a village, right? In a God-forsaken country. I'm sorry, God-forsaken village, I would say. I shouldn't say God-forsaken because it wasn't forsaken by God, the fact that he was born. But then it's a way of saying that who knew of the word Puttaparthi? Who knew of a village called Puttaparthi before 1940s or even 1960s, I would say, or 50s? Who knew Puttaparthi? Just a handful of people around that village perhaps knew what it was. This was a place which had thorns, which had no fertile land, which was a drought-prone area, which had occasional flooding by Chitravati river. Look at what it is today. A spiritual magnet, a spiritual capital. And as years go by, and as decades go by, as centuries go by, that will become a very, very powerful place. There's no doubt about it, because it's established by the greatest master who has walked the earth in our times, at least as I know it. And so that's never going to fall back. So that is, in that place Swami is born, but it wasn't this big, right? He is born in that small, tiny little village as a villager. And look what he did with his life. If there are youngsters listening to this video, either on this live session or would watch it later on, it is very important for us to understand what made Swami so successful. I asked this to a young SSC student in one little presentation that I was doing with them. What is the secret of Swami's success. And strangely, this kid said, oh, he had a lot of money, so he did what he did. If I had that kind of money, I would also do. I was shocked that this is the kind of perspective these kids have. And that is why I always mention this, because it's very important to understand that he didn't start with a lot of money, and that's how I explained this to him. I don't know if I managed to convince that child, but if we need to be successful, we look at, okay, I need money in the bank. I need to have social networking today, right? How do we decide success? I need to have X number of followers in YouTube or Facebook, and that determines success. I need to have so much money in the bank. I need to have a real good social networking. I need to be recognized, and I need awards being displayed in front of me or behind me. I need to look at my awards. I need people to keep recognizing me. I need endorsements from outside constantly. I need education. I need degrees. All these are mere crutches, if you will, that I lean on to believe that I am successful, or I'm successful, right? What if I don't have any of this? What if I don't have any friends? What if nobody knows me? What if there is no followers on Facebook, YouTube? I don't even have online access. Okay. What if I don't know how to sing? I don't know anything. I just know one little language that I learned in a small little village. What if I have no vehicles? What if I don't have anything? Would I still be successful? And the answer that you and I would get from our own little minds, because we have conditioned them to believe what success would be or what it needs to be successful, our little minds would tell us, no, you can't get anywhere with that. And yet, there is one master who shows that. This is history repeating itself. Krishna was born in a prison. He proved what he can be. Not sit and look at your childhood and say, I was abused, I was born in a prison, my uncle was out to kill me, I was raised as a coward, I was separated from my parents, look how pathetic my life is. He turned out to be an emperor. Again, role model. Rama, role model. I lost my kingdom, my auntie cursed me, fire upon her. Look at what she has done. I thought about her as my mom, and look what she has done. She has robbed all my property, my entire kingdom, and not only that, sent me to the forest. My father foolishly believed her, and I'm kicked out of my own kingdom, and now I've lost my wife. Look at me, oh pathetic, how ridiculous my life has become. I've lost everything. One day I was a king, and now I'm alone and sitting with this brother of mine who just sticks to me like a leech. Now Rama could have cried like that. Yet look at what Rama did. Role model. When I used to hear these stories, nobody explained to me like this. Jesus Christ, raised as a son of carpenter, his birth is not recorded because his parents think he might be killed, so they run away in the darkness of the night, born in a manger with donkeys around him, raised as a son of carpenter. He had enough excuses to be a carpenter, a good carpenter. Look what he did with his life. These are all 5,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, millions of years ago, when you talk of Rama and all of that. So, when you look at those stories, you might say, but those don't apply to us today. And so the teacher comes again to teach you the same story again. Sai Baba, born in a village, not in Bombay, not in Delhi, not to a rich family, not to an influential family, but born in a that's why I use the word God-forsaken. So pardon me to use that word. It's not the right phrase, but for the lack of any other phrase, that place where nobody would think of going on their own. He was born and raised there as an ordinary village boy. At the age of 14, he made up his mind what he wanted to do with his life, and look at what he did. This is the beauty of an avatar. This is the beauty of what one person can do if he only believes. So it comes to that question. So what is really required for success? And I address this to youngsters especially, not that it doesn't apply to all of us, it applies to all of us. When we define, I wish I was more successful, we have this weird idea of what success should be, and we keep chasing that all the time. What is then, therefore, defines success? What made Sai Baba so successful? The way I look at it, the way this blind man looks at it, is that one thing that Baba allowed to express through his thought, through his word, through his deed. That one core belief, if you will, quote unquote, that one core experience of I am divine. I am divine. That was Veda and Upanishads come to life right there. Because we hear about Vedanta, we hear about Upanishads, and all of them keep saying you are Brahman. The Brahman is in you, the whole consciousness is within you, and all of that, right? But we dismiss that as, ayo, adalla we'll see. Because we love this pathetic idea of me, poor me, ayo, Swami, why are you doing this to me, Swami? When am I going to get this darshan, Swami? And we like that drama. We create that distance, we love that, we cry and all of that. And then we refuse to believe that, wait a minute, he is with me, in me, around me. When am I going to start saying that? Swami showed us, has shown us, that with nothing, he created everything. And Swami, I know Brother Hari will definitely agree to this. Swami would say, my hand is empty, and this empty hand, there is nothing, and in that nothing lies everything. You know how many weeks and months I spent sleeplessly thinking, what does it mean? What does it even mean? In that, give me, ee chetlo em undi, em ledu. Nothing. In that nothing lies everything. In that nothing lies everything. With nothing, he came into this earth. With nothing, look at what he has built, that village. There is a rail, just in physical terms, there is a railway station, there is an airport, there is a national highway. All of this, can it be done by one villager who knew nothing other than one language? Who never traveled out of his country? Who didn't have any internet, any online access, no cell phones, no iPads, no fancy gadgets, nothing. And yet look what he did with one life. How did he manage to do that? How did he? I'm sorry? Yes, Hari, you said something? Nevertheless. Oh, yeah, see. Yeah, absolutely. No publicity. In fact, he said no need of publicity. I remember once when we were with Swami in one devotee's house, when Swami is so kind and so beautiful. Uh, when we were started doing PhDs, research, we had to go out of Puttaparthi because there are libraries. I was doing a PhD in banking and finance. So Puttaparthi library was limited. Remember, we are talking of days when there was no online and no Google search when you can do all of this, right? So the registrar told Swami of the institute, mentioned to Swami, ఇప్పుడు పిల్లలు బయట పోయి రీసెర్చ్ చేయాలా. And Swami was very upset. He told Swami that students have to now go out and do research. The science boys can do research in the labs. History boys can somehow get books and read and do all of that. But these finance boys, these commerce boys, they have to step out, go and meet banks, especially they're doing banking and their research. So they have to go to the RBI libraries and collect the document, collect financial records and bank statements dating back, published records and all of that. Sit and go all of that and meet these bankers and economists and all that. So they need to get out of the ashram. And Swami had said, what? They don't even know how to cross the street. How will they go to the big cities? That is how Swami protected us. So beautiful. And so he said, and he called us, I remember that he asked, Miku, you don't even know how to cross the street, those big streets in the city. Do you know how to do that? So of course we were young. Of course we would know how to cross the street. But the way he was saying, oh my God, my children are going out. And we are not children in that sense. We are 25, 27. Well, wait a minute. I was 23 or 24 then. These days your kids drive cars at that age, right? I didn't learn driving a cart and I came out of Puttaparthi. But nevertheless, so Swami, what he did, he took us, he said, I will come with you all. And we wondered what that meant. So he took us a couple of times, and so we would follow Swami's car. And Swami would organize a whole trip to Chennai. At that time it was called Madras, so that we could go with him, and then he can keep an eye on us, right? So it was one of those trips, the first of its kind, that we were with Swami, and we stayed in Sundaram with Swami. And anyway, at that point, Swami took us to a devotee's house, an old devotee's house. And she was telling us this beautiful story as to how um, many years ago, when Swami was very young, he would visit her house and he would stay in her house because he's out to spread his mission, right? So he will come to her house and give his grand vision of what he wants to do with his life and how many people are going to come to him and this and that and all of this. And she would be thinking, Ayo Papam, this boy from village is coming. Of course, he has his divine powers and all that, and she's grown to like him. But she tells us in that this thing in front of Swami, she was telling us all this because Swami told her, Cheppandi, konjam buddhi cheppandi pillalku. Put some sense into their heads. So I remember that because that somehow touched me so much. I remember that one particular thing she said. She said, I told this young Satya, I told this young boy, what are you going to do staying in Puttaparthi village? We are here, and this was in 1940s, right? We are here in Madras. We have connections in the government, British government at that time, and so we can help you set up whatever you want. We can help you get more people for your bhajans that you sing. You hardly got 4 or 5 people there. You go and sit in the sands in Chitravati, and there are snakes and scorpions. You come here, start your ashram here, start your thing. We will help you. We'll get you all the influence and all of that. Now, for you and me, it is so easy to fall into that. I wouldn't say trap, but I don't know why that word came to my mind. Let us call it a trap for now. It is easy for us to fall into that. Why? Because then we start leaning on someone else for success. We lean on someone else. So, oh, you help. Okay. So we get into that obligation. I'm learning this every day of my life. Because people come and say, we can do this for your Gurukulam, we can do this for you. And for me, I'm like, wait a minute, let us see what Swami would do at this point. Rather than say, oh yes, please, let's do this. And seek that obligation. Because once you get into that trap of obligation, then you can't think beyond that, because then you are now defined by the person who's obligated you. Swami, now this is the way I'm thinking. Anyway, put that aside. When she shared that story, Swami was just sitting and smiling and listening to that. And she says, Swami insisted as a young boy, adamant young boy, stubborn young boy, saying that no, Puttaparthi is my place. That is where I want to start it. If people want to come to me, they will come to me. I don't want roads to be built there. I don't want, let people find me. Is that audacity? Or what is that? What is that makes a young boy not think clearly the way we would put it? Wait a minute, are you even thinking clearly? Because today when we want to start anything, whether it is a Sai center or whether it's a business, we think of location. Make it convenient for everyone. Not that it shouldn't be. I'm just saying how we emphasize so much on location. And the more we begin to make things convenient for everyone, the more we begin to compromise on the way we sing bhajans so that everyone can come. What happens is we have diluted our very core principles. Everything becomes diluted and nobody comes. Because that core energy that we talked of earlier, that energy that actually draws and creates a satsang that draws people, that energy becomes diluted. That energy becomes compromised. Because I am singing, oh, if I sing only Ram, 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 who is going to come for my satsang? I have to sing new bhajans. I have to compose new bhajans. If I start doing that, my core energy will get diluted. This is what I believe. What do I believe? That is important. Even though what you believe may not be subscribed to by anybody at this point around you, what is it that you believe is what is going to draw that energy towards you? This is the lesson that Swami has taught us. This is the lesson you and I should take home. This is the perfect example of what Swami has done with his life. Now, you might say, but he is an avatar, he can do. If he was in that state, if that is the attitude you're going to take and approach this whole scenario with that, oh, he is God, he can do anything he wants, then he need not even have taken birth as a human being, right? In this divine plane, in this dimension, Narayana and Shiva can just decide, and this will can everything get sent right. That is not how it works. Because that Narayana and Shiva is none other than you and me. We have forgotten our divinity, and therefore we have created this complex lifestyle which is taking us away from our source, and that is why we are getting more and more further into this confusion, disease-ridden, poverty-ridden, never fulfilled kind of scheme of life. So how can you break away from that? Because if somebody fixes you, you're going to go right back. If you had carried your child for 20 years and not let him walk, and then one day you say, now you're 20, start walking, he's never going to walk, he's going to fall right down. So by merely fixing our problems by one wave of hand, by a flick of a hand, or whatever you call a snap, okay, snap of his fingers, if he had fixed our lives, guess what would have happened? The next moment, you and I would have gone right back to our watching our CNN and Bold and Beautiful, and I don't know what you watch, whatever we watch on TV or whatever else we do, we would go right back, because we are not taught to walk. So what does the divine come? The divine comes and sets a role model by himself living, going through all the pain and sufferings, depriving himself of the basic necessities of life that you and I have. He took upon himself and said, listen, I don't want anything that you have. Let me start with nothing in a village. This is the life Swami started with. This is why, to me, as a youngster, when I went in Puttaparthi and I discovered more and more of Swami, and more when I got into the ashram, into the management of the ashram, into the trust, into the management of the institute, into everything, as it grew, I began to understand, oh my God, he's building this with nothing. Nothing. There was never excess or never surplus, and yet there was always resources flowing at the right time, at the right place. To me, that is abundance. A river is abundant not when it is flooded, not when there is excess water. So don't think there must be abundance in my life, but what is it? I am just paying my monthly bills. Stop right there and say, at least I'm able to pay my monthly bills. That is abundance. The fact that resources come to you at the right time, at the right place, and it's, in this particular analogy, I'm just using resources by way of money, but talent, knowledge, people, help, everything will fall in place at the right time, at the right place, in the required quantity that you need for that vision at that moment in your life. That is abundance. All you have to do is open that door for that abundance to flow. Anything in excess becomes too much and too less. So Swami has set an example for us. He set been a perfect role model and set an example as to how this is achieved. There are so many instances that I would love to share, and I promise that next time I will dive directly into the story, hopefully, if Swami permits me. But I feel this is so important for us to talk about this in our family, to talk about this in our own head. What have I done with Swami in my life for the last 20 years, 30 years, 5 years, 10 years, however long I've been exposed? What have I done with this divine guru in my life? How have I really transformed myself? How is that transformation, how is it reflecting back in my circumstances? Because the circumstances around us, people around us, whether I like it or not, are merely reflections of my inner belief system. And has that changed? If I don't like this, can I change that? And everything around me will miraculously change, not overnight, but as that divine principle within you begins to change its very core, then it changes around. These are the most powerful lesson, therefore, I learned from Swami is celebrate your individuality. My dear friends, let me end this satsang with this one thought that I want you to take home. Each one of us are unique. Each one of us. You are absolutely a unique person. And I'm not saying this in an abstract philosophical term. I am doing that as well, but not limiting it to an abstract philosophical term. But even science, right down to its DNA, that your DNA is yours alone, right? It's unique. So there is no other person exactly like you. That is why every single person's horoscope is different. It can never be the same. Every single person's look, feel, the way he thinks, the way attitude, the samskaras, vasanas, all the instincts that we bring and all the impulses that we bring, likes, dislikes, and all of that. Everything makes you, what makes you is unique. Please celebrate that uniqueness. Celebrate that uniqueness. This is one of the most important lessons I learned from Swami. He celebrated his uniqueness. What was his uniqueness? I am born in a village. I have no vehicles to go get out of the village other than a bullock cart. People cannot come to this village unless they cross this flooded river, which there was no weather forecast those days. All of this, right? And yet he has this big vision. He celebrated his uniqueness. He was neither tall, neither had the money, neither had all of this, but he was unique. I am God. I have a mission to fulfill. Satya, Dharma, Shanti, Prema, Ahimsa. As Professor Gokak added this with Swami's blessing, and Swami agreed, he added the fifth value, Ahimsa. Satya, Dharma, Shanti, Prema. Deen kosanam vachanu. I have come for this. I will do this. This is my mission. And Swami never failed, never wavered, never compromised his uniqueness. He never compromised his uniqueness. He celebrated his uniqueness. Right from the hairstyle. His hair was curly as it grew. He said, this is who I am. This is how it will be. He celebrated his uniqueness. He didn't think, how did the other holy men look today? What are they doing? Oh, they have beard. Maybe I should also grow a beard. Maybe I should, fold my head, and maybe I should tie a kerchief around my head or something like that. Shirdi Baba was like that. Maybe I should show something. He was completely different from every single spiritual personage that was at this time, at his times, and even today. There's nobody else will dare come up with a flashy personality like him, right? That's what makes it so unique. That's what makes me want to keep him as a role model. That's what makes me want to follow his footsteps and use those principles governed his success. Celebrating your uniqueness, never compromising on who you are, not being adamant, not being stubborn. When you say compromising means these are my core values. So today if you ask me, so what are your core values that run your life? These are the 5 core values. Satya, truth, and that definition keeps changing as more experiences come. What is definition of truth? Like I started earlier. Dharma, what is your definition of righteousness? Righteous way of life. Swadharma is what Gita talks about, what Swami talks about in the Gita Vahini. What is your concept of righteous? Swa, what is my sense of righteousness? Because that changes. Dharma changes according to culture, civilization, families, and even between individuals, concept of dharma will change. Somebody says killing a mosquito is perfectly okay, they won't feel guilty at all. Somebody will say, I killed a mosquito, Swami, forgive me. Both work. Both are right. Because it is their definition of what dharma is. What is righteousness? Well, that killing a mosquito will fall. You get the point. Dharma is swadharma. What is your idea of righteousness? Write it down. Think about it. Meditate upon it. Begin to inculcate that in your life, and then that definition will change. And as you grow, what is my idea of Satya, Dharma, Shanti? What is my idea of peace? Do I get peace with soft music? Do I get peace listening to bhajan? Or there is an inner peace that I'm able to tap into? Or can I tap into that inner peace? What is it? I don't know for you. You have to determine that. And then open that door to peace and begin to practice that peace. If a certain object gives you peace, allow that object to be around you. If a particular music gives you peace, allow that. That will open the door to the idea of peace. Peace becomes an experience the mind can absorb. And once it becomes absorbing, the nature of the mind is wanting more. So it will want more of that peace. And that will slowly lead you until you find eternal peace in the divine truth that you are the one. And you're eternal. Nothing ever damages you or will harm you. You neither grow nor shrink. You are the one. And this way you examine these core values. These are the core values that guide my life. These are the core values guide Maya and our lives together. And I'm pretty sure that these are the core values that guide Maya's life as well. Satya, Dharma, Shanti, Prema, Ahimsa. If these core values begin to guide your life, if in every word of yours you're reflecting one of these values and nothing outside these values, then watch the miracle of divinity manifesting in your life. My dear brothers and sisters, my dear friends, this is the only way we can bring Swami back into our lives. If he's not been in our lives, as if there's a sense of separation, if there's a sense of distance that you feel from Swami, this is the only way that I know of, that I practice, and we experience Swami, the miracles the manifestations, the synchronicities, if you will, the divine things, everything falls in place exactly at the right time, at the right place, in the right quantity that is needed, comes to your doorstep, literally without asking. All you have to do is focus on that being, that core person. What is the core belief that drives my life? How can I not compromise on those core beliefs other than simply allowing that to grow? And let that be your guiding principles. I don't know if you expected this. I certainly didn't expect what I spoke for the last 90 minutes. I had some experiences that I thought I would share. In fact, yesterday when I was doing audio testing with Venkat, he said, I told him, I said, it will be the same old stories, I don't know. But when I sat here and the sun was rising and Brother Hari gave me such a lovely, warm introduction, there was a shift in that energy. And so Swami decided to share these thoughts through me. And thank you for your patience. Thank you for patiently listening to this. I hope you appreciate what I have to share. I am not sitting as a preacher here, nor am I sitting as someone who knows better than you that I'm sharing these thoughts, and certainly not someone who said this is what Swami is. And if I did give that idea, then that is not the intention. It is out of enthusiasm, it is out of a deep sense of passion and excitement that I share this, because it has brought in so much into my life. I can speak for myself personally here. Really, everything from the perfect life partner that I have, like Maya, everything is just perfectly orchestrated, perfectly done. I have no reason to complain. I can't find reasons to complain. There's so many to complain, but I've decided that is never going to end. And I start beginning to focus on the roses, the thorns hidden behind lose their significance. All I see are roses in my garden. The thorns are really of no significance. So, and it is from that angle, I come from there, and that joy that I want to share with you, saying that we have a treasure house within us. We have this great divine principle, Sai, living within us, that is unending in its capacity to give. Let us from this moment on begin to tap into that energy, seeking Sai within. Venkat, I will turn over the camera. It's over to you. Thank you all for your patience. Thank you. Sai Ram.